They gave him three strikes, you're out.
People like Bryan Battle, the UFC sees right through it. They've had to deal with these type of fighters for years. I went through this a little bit with Anthony Rumble Johnson. George, you got something for us, right, on the Bryan Battle situation?
Oh yeah. So Bryan Battle, former UFC middleweight, had his third weight miss in total, second in a row. He recently just announced that he has signed with Dirty Boxing and will be fighting August 29th at 185 pounds. What do you guys think about this? Is it a just full cut from the UFC when you have guys like Bryan Ortega missing weight like he did? That's what the fans have been mentioning online. What do you guys think?
Yeah, well, excuse me, how many times has Bryan Ortega missed weight? They're going to give it. They're going to give everyone a 1, maybe a 2. They gave him three strikes, you're out. Josh, it's as simple as, the whole thing that I've always said: be on time, make weight, fight your ass off. There's your goddamn fucking rules for being a fighter. Okay. Yeah. When they cannot rely on you to come in and make weight, they can't rely on you. And so what are they supposed to do? Continue in this fucking element that we don't know what Bryan's going to come in. I love Bryan Battle as a fighter. I think he's fun to watch. I like him on the mic. I think he's tough as hell. But this is a guy that was going from 170 up to 185 and didn't make weight at 185. Now, They did the right thing. They did the only thing they could do at the time. We can't trust you. And when you have a promoter that can't trust you, that's a problem. And so I don't blame the UFC for cutting him. I would love to see the PFL pick him up, but if I'm the PFL, I do have a bit of a concern. Hey, are you going to make weight? Because I need you to make weight. You're going to screw up my roster and screw up my, matchmaking if you don't.
Yeah, I think people like Bryan Battle, the UFC sees right through it. They've had to deal with these type of fighters for years. And they're just like, look, you're going to continue to do what you want to do. So until we prove a point, using you as an example, people are going to think they can do the same thing. The Bryan Ortega situation is a little bit different. You have a guy who's ranked in the top 5, didn't make weight, missed it by a lot. But he's also been talking about going to 55. So that means that the UFC should have seen the writing on the wall. It probably took this situation to get him there. And they're going to probably bump him up to 55 now. Or they're going to let him go, which I don't think they're going to let him go. They're going to let him try and make a run at 55, see where he's at 55. He just didn't have a great performance today, though. So you missed weight by 8 pounds, and then your
you kind of expected it. With everything that happened, were you expecting a great performance from Bryan Ortega?
No, I wasn't expecting a great performance, but John, you didn't even make it. You're 8 pounds overweight. Okay. I expected a Khamzat Chimaev performance when he missed by 8 pounds. I didn't expect that, but I expected something where I have an 8-pound advantage. You made the weight. I didn't make the weight.
Just the way he looked at the
death's door. He was on death's door. And John, I was saying, 2 more pounds or 3 more pounds, he would have missed the 155-pound weight class too. And that's what's wild to me. Yeah. Is 3 more pounds, he would have been over 156. And so you would have been like, man, you should just fight at 155. If you look like that, missing barely, missing 145 and barely making 155, some guys have actually cut a little bit too much weight because they stopped cutting at 10 or 6 a.m. and they show up to weigh-ins and their body keeps burning the weight and they show up at 153. This dude was on death's door at 153.
That's right.
I mean, he's supposed to be making 145. I love Bryan as a fighter. I said this on a story post that I did on my Instagram, is that I love watching him fight. He just didn't pull the trigger tonight, which is not like him. He normally does let it go. Maybe it was because of the weight cut. He has gotten away from his grappling, which is what made him very popular. The T-City, the triangle, all of those things. That's what your bread and butter was. Having you fight at 155. I'd like to see a fight with him, maybe him and Charles Oliveira at 55. Once he gets a couple fights at 155. But I'm saying that kind of fight. There's interesting fights for me to match him up against at 155. But he's going to have to physically put some muscle on. He doesn't look like a physically strong fighter. He's got the reach and the length and the leverage he can use, but that's at 45. All these guys are fucking animals at 55. All of them. You know,
You're
and
right.
so I want to see him back in the UFC, give him the opportunity. But I also said this on my X account. I said, what the UFC decides to do with you is a direct reflection of how much money you generate and what your fan base is. If you don't have a fan base and you can't bring in views, Ronda Rousey said it a while ago. Remember when she was talking about the whole women's, female, like the gap of pay discrepancy, and she's like, "Well, I get paid because I bring in this amount of money."
Yeah, I
And that's
put
why.
butts in the
She's
seat.
like, yeah, she's like, this is why, and which 100% she was correct.
Yep,
she's a draw. So when you're a draw like that, you get paid accordingly. Well, Brian Ortega, I'm not going to say is a Ronda Rousey draw,
no,
but he's a lot more of a draw than Brian Battle. And so when I have to weigh the two things, Brian, I'm sorry, man. Like you also don't handle it very professionally.
It's called apples to oranges. You know, when you're taking a look, you cannot compare Brian Ortega and what he's accomplished in the UFC to Brian Battle. And again, I love Brian Battle. I think he's fun, but not at that level that you look at and you go, you know, was John Jones going to get away, you know, with more than other, you know, light heavyweights or heavyweights? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Why? Because of how good he is at fighting.
Because he's John Jones.
There you go. You know, so
his sample size is big enough to say how great he is.
Yep.
So, like John, the UFC, it's based off of, you know, what you bring in, what the response from the fans are,
what you bring to the table.
Yeah, what you bring to the table, and then that's a direct relation of how they handle you. 100%.
Yeah.
So, you know, I went through this a little bit with Anthony Rumble Johnson. He didn't make the weight so many times. They got tired. They pushed him up, and then he missed the weight at that weight.
And then they got rid of him.
Then he went and fought a couple fights over in the World Series of Fighting.
And showed what?
And showed that you know what? He fought at heavyweight at the World Series of Fighting and realized that
Andre Arlovsky.
Yeah, his
broke Andre's jaw.
He realized his weight class was 205. He felt comfortable there. Didn't have to kill himself to get down. And he came back, and the thing is, they always loved AJ.
Sure.
They loved him at 170. They loved everything he did. They think about this. The UFC is always, all they've ever wanted is a guy that had the power of AJ. Yeah. I want the guy that will knock everybody out. Yeah. Anthony Rumble Johnson was that fucking guy.
Yeah, I want the stick of dynamite.
Yeah, that's exactly what he was. But when you can't make weight, you left him with no choice. He missed weight 5 or 6 times, 3 times with me. And I was like,
but they brought him back.
They brought him back because
the whole thing.
He had success over there, but he was also extremely easy to deal with. He was somebody because AJ. I was going to manage AJ for a little bit. What's that?
He's also one of the nicest damn guys.
And that's my point. Is that he came to them, or when they came back and they tried to renegotiate coming back, he said, "Look, I know I messed up. I know. I've got to take responsibility for it." And that's all they want to hear.
Sure.
Like, fuck, I messed up. I'm going to do better. I'm going to prove it to you guys. So he went over, you know, and fought, had success over there. Never wanted to fight for the World Series of Fighting title because he knew he couldn't come back. So the UFC had told him, go get some fights, figure out what weight class you want to fucking even fight in, you know, and then come back and then we'll talk. And the good thing about all that, John, was when he left, I think he was only making like 100 and 100. Yeah. And then when he came back, he's making 5 and 5, more. 500 and 500. Yeah. He was almost making $1 million a fight. Fuck it. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
It's like, I wish I would have been your fucking manager.
He was making some really good money.
Yeah, he was. He was doing well, man. Yeah, because anyways. But great job. You know, you just got to figure this out. This, like, I think Brian Battle, he doesn't come across to me as someone's going to admit he's going to move on, and we may never see him again.
I don't know. You know, I saw him when he went up against, he went to the table of his opponent who was eating and apologized. Said, "Hey, man, I'm sorry. It was my bad. I thought going up to 185, I could sit there and basically just, not have to worry about my weight. I was wrong. I screwed up. I apologize to you." He did everything right there. So, again, I think in the end, Brian Battle will find his way back because Brian Battle's a good fighter, but they've got to show that, hey, we're not going to put up with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
They can't.
Yeah.
You know, you do it once, okay. You may be able to get away with it twice. You're not going to get away with it a third time.
AJ got away with it for about 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, it was a different time.
But when you got knockout power like that, they gonna let you slide a little bit.